Hello everyone, my name is Embra and today's performance is a poem I wrote in 2019 called The Wishing Apple. Can I ask you to turn that so I don't look at it? Okay. I'd give you directions, but I'm quite sad to say. The place I'll speak of in this book, tucked inside a nature nook and hidden where we couldn't look, is very far away. I can give descriptions, though, about its lovely trees, its limbs which kiss a sunlit sky, its sprouts with knobby knees, trunks as wide as mountains, and leaves of freshest green. It smells like summer Sundays, or moments in between. Behind the jewel-toned waterfall, atop a grassy knoll, there lived and breathed and make-believed a wise and ancient soul. This soul was a traveler with wanderlust to roam, to go and sow and grow and glow, and then to come back home. She tends a thriving garden, now cultivating spice. But heaven's sake, what ache must quake when pruning paradise? So dressing for a journey and packing garden shears, she pocketed some clods of earth, hoping to recall their worth, giggling with unbridled mirth about her souvenirs. Then, with feeble memory, purpose, and intent, she stepped upon the beaten path, and away she went. She came upon an apple tree, the first of only two. It marked a fork with many tines and whispered what to do. "Choose a path," said tree to soul, "and brand it with your name." "You sell fresh hell, and peace you quell," she said, but all the same. She chose a path untraveled yet, obscured by fog and haze. The quest a test at fate's behest to set deceit ablaze. "Sweet organic sentinel," she seeded as she passed, "you're just, I trust, and thus I must do that with which I'm tasked." As acceptance settled in, the mist cleared and she saw a vivid essence marching on, gorgeous as the breaking dawn and steady as a graceful swan, who struck our soul with awe. Their meeting was quite curious, as meetings often are. A special bond between the two felt whether near or far. Such feelings of camaraderie, of journeys parallel. And as they touched, weak thoughts dispersed, so recollections fell. Then on they walked in tandem, two paths and yet but one, dancing, prancing, and advancing toward a setting sun. Soul cherished peace and quietude, though pain would come to bear. But calm is she whose mind is free from secrets hiding there. They found as they were walking more spirits to unite. Such care this pair did freely share with other souls of light. These fellows felt magnificent, magnetic to the form. Beyond antiquity well known, below the depth of flesh alone, beneath facades of blood and bone, wait signals weird and warm. Hints lie in lovely tokens, mementos highly blessed, that travelers fill with magic and clutch close to their chest. They carry these along with them, which catch another's eye and radiate great love, though they may not remember why. This is what transpired as our soul moved on ahead. Behold, like gold, a truth untold, but rightly felt instead. While pondering this sacred fact, she peered into a creek. Eyes grew in size with great surprise as soul began to speak. "So small I am," she cried out loud and gave her wrist a twirl. "Yes, I guess I must confess I'm just a little girl." This made her feel uneasy. This made her want to flee. But as she searched within her heart for wisdom of two realms apart, organic, natural, growing art, she sensed they had to see. For though her frame was tiny and collected years quite small, she held enormous power that would one day come to call. For born was she with noble charge to eat and breathe and live, with boundless space inside her heart and lots of love to give. As such, two sides must win the day of one who deeply feels. When brushing skin of souls akin breaks guarded holy seals, ink dripping with alacrity fills bottles corked with glass, while blinding bright pure white daylight leaves footprints in the grass. But darkened underbellies lurk in beings pervious. Despite the might of crystal sight, they warn us all with this: we must cry out in joy and pain, because our frames are frail. On paper we nurse every wound, sweet metamorphosis cocooned, the state to which we are attuned commands beyond the veil. So bear this truth in mind, to which our soul must always cling. The blade within her twice will cut inside a single swing. And so the girl's catharsis through her private verse began. With secret sounds and melodies into herself she ran. She sang of loss and heartache, many human truths well known, sad things life brings on paper wings, not all of them her own. She told tales lived by others, woe and wonder juxtaposed, put on a shelf, kept to herself, the message undisclosed. Stashed in secret places like the hidden thoughts they were, always waiting, incubating, meant to grow along with her. The number of creation swelled with every earnest song, shrouded truth in corners, curled ideas yet to be unfurled, biding time to change the world. When Kismet came along, it took the form of innocence, of fateful show and tell, a private presentation for the souls who knew her well. But concert kept clandestine was amiss among the stars, as three-piece suits prepared themselves to peek in dusty jars. Hanging in the balance as above a branching line, displayed and swayed a long-delayed proposal to align. And as the query hovered so below the open sky, great discontent was sent, which meant that destiny was nigh. But here, a stubborn youth chose to ignore the forceful prod. She fought the thought that music ought to show the world to God, till fate imprisoned below bones in effort to break free, sought a soul to help advise, and trusting destined will to rise, placed her faith in worn and wise femininity. Her pocket then grew heavy, such that she could not ignore the sudden weighty burden never noticed there before. She reached with wary fingers as her chest began to hurt, and out she pulled a tiny seed inside a lump of dirt. The sight seemed so familiar, yet ineffably surreal, like seams in dreams concocting schemes to fray and rip and peel. She sensed a fertile pulsing and a thirst for mother's curve, which grew to do what precious few were ready to observe. "Hello again," she whispered, although why remained unclear. Then seed decreed the sacred deed to which she must adhere. "Feed me," cried the little seed, with tears of grief and glee. "Plant me in a fertile mound. Watch me spring up from the ground and listen to the roaring sound of all that I can be." And then the pip went silent, so she covered it with clay. Soul strained her ears, but seed, it seemed, said all it cared to say. In lieu of verbal gratitude, seed chose instead to guide her ancient thoughts back home from where old recollections hide. Enveloped in her memories of pertinence and pith, the sin within the might have been decayed into a myth. She sang her precious secrets into hearts and minds and ears of those who chose to wear the clothes she'd sewn from salty tears. And as our adolescent girl aged out of childhood, romance by chance through nightly trance quite resolutely stood, all-consuming and erect and born of worldly need. This lust she could not satiate required hunger to create an appetite that would abate if daily it should feed. So fate arose at restless pace, infecting antsy hands, encouraging an eager voice to hatch deliberate plans. And thus a feedback loop was formed as soul matured and grew. She poured great love unto the earth, but earth returned it too. And as toroidal love spread out, enthralling hearts with ease, seed burst with thirst and roots dispersed in nightly fantasies. Branches grew toward the clouds, roots into lush terrain. It fed on dread from tears she shed when weeping stemmed from pain. And when the tears that flowed were those of joyful jubilee, likewise wet eyes caused life to rise into her growing tree. Time teased her mind with glimpse and glance of winding limb and root. Living tendrils skyward crept, manifesting as she slept, growing thicker while she wept. But never bearing fruit. The barren, silent, aging plant continued to consume, devoid of sweetness, well deserved from long awaited bloom. Concessions seeped into old bones, roots basked in silent growth. And though soul couldn't see it, there was beauty in them both. Old friend, she said, beseeching, in a weak and weary sigh, your spell will knell my final bell, and surely I must die. But much unlike its cousin, her tree would not converse. No threat of debt begat regret, no prayer would lift her curse. Our soul began to panic, certain now she'd soon be dead. But plant through chant chose then to grant assurance, as it said. I grow in two directions, high above and down below. Over clouds I'll one day peer, and deep within our living sphere. But never could I feed on fear. So steady as you go. Though stunned that tree had spoken, while wordless years had passed, the time had helped her understand that flowers blossom last. As this thought lulled her to sleep, a vision crystallized, a single apple beckoning to come and claim her prize. Sweet desire filled her up with promises of peace. One bite tonight would make things right. Unwanted pain would cease. But overwhelming as it was, a greater thirst prevailed, a sign divine and by design, just only now unveiled. It's not yet time, she heard or felt, uncertain which it was. Exist, persist, I must insist that you stay here, because you'll soon awake refreshed and strong with ecstasy and zeal. You'll make your final master stroke as threadbare lies go up in smoke, and suddenly she then awoke to stretch her limbs and feel the passion of new purpose, paying homage to the old, a swan song filled with all the love a tender soul could hold. She gave her being to the world, wrapped in refined refrain, and though she would not see it all, transcendence soon would reign. Tired now, but satisfied, in reaching apogee, composed, eyes closed, sweet spirit dozed in blissful reverie. Before her stood her apple tree, mysterious and proud, not twig or sprig, but vastly big, now piercing sky and cloud. Fruit flecked its regal, stately crown, crisp crimson and unique, so each could reach with secret speech its own interest to pique. The whispers blended seamlessly, a gentle wind through leaves, asking soul to make a choice, take a bite and use her voice, cast a wish, and then rejoice in all that she receives. She reached up high with gratitude, no discord prompting pause, and plucked a bright red apple, hanging free from outer flaws. Tears raced down a rosy cheek as teeth pierced scarlet skin, and soul could feel her tired bones delighting from within. I wish to hold inside my heart the dreams I've yet to weave, of you, anew, both tried and true, that travelers believe. I want to grasp duality, to ease and agonize, to yearn, to learn, and then return as whimsical and wise. I desire darkness, sunshine, wind, and snow and rain. I seek the weak whose minds are bleak, whose visions wax and wane. And thus, the wish was granted, though she didn't know it then. The next one would be just as real. She'd laugh and cry and hurt and heal. Around the faded water wheel, she'd travel once again. But this trip, in particular, was finished, in a sense. So she prepared to take a rest from soulful sustenance. The winding road had ended, so she stripped her time-worn dress, and down soul laid the garden tools for future trips to bless. Meanwhile, those she had left behind had eyes to clearly see that footfalls dancing into war must echo harmony.